The presidents of the railroads will swear that there are only 2 levels at Grand Central Station, but I say there are 3. 'Cause I've been on the 3rd level of Grand Central Station. Yes, I've taken the obvious step. I talked to a psychiatrist friend of mine. I'm telling you, it exists. I've been there. I've been on the 3rd level of Grand Central Station.
Charlie, it was a waking dream, wish fulfillment. You were just daydreaming about the life you wish you had. You're unhappy.
What do you mean?
I mean that the modern world is full of insecurity, fear, war, worry, and all the rest of it, and you just want to escape.
Well, who doesn't? Everybody I know wants to escape. But they don't wander down into the 3rd level at Grand Central Station. But that's the reason, he said, and all my friends agreed. Everything points to it, they claimed. My stag collecting, for example. That's a
temporary refuge from reality.
Well, maybe. But my grandfather didn't need any refuge from reality. Things were pretty nice and peaceful in his day. And he started my collection. It's a nice collection, too. Blocks of 4 of practically every US issue, first aid covers, and so on. President Roosevelt collected stamps too, you know. Anyway, here's what happened at Grand Central. One night last summer, I worked late in the office. I was in a hurry to get uptown to my apartment, so I decided to take the subway from Grand Central because it's faster than the bus. Now, I don't know why this should have happened to me. I'm just an ordinary guy named Charlie, 31 years old, and I was wearing a tan gabardine suit and a straw hat with a fancy band. I passed a dozen men who looked just like me, and I wasn't trying to escape from anything. I just wanted to get home to Louisa, my wife. I turned into Grand Central from Vanderbilt Avenue and went down the steps to the 1st level, where you take the trains like the 21st century. Then I walked down another flight to the 2nd level, where the suburban trains leave from, entered into an arched doorway heading for the subway, and got lost. It's easy to do. I've been in and out of Grand Central hundreds of times, but I'm always bumping into new doorways and stairs and corridors. Once I got into a tunnel about a mile long and came out in the lobby of the Roosevelt Hotel. Another time I came up in an office building on 46th Street, 3 blocks away. Sometimes I think Grand Central is growing like a tree, pushing out new corridors and staircases like roots. There's probably a long tunnel that nobody knows about feeling its way under the city right now, on its way to Times Square, and maybe another to Central Park. And maybe, because for so many people through the years, Grand Central has been an exit, a way of escape, maybe that's how the tunnel I got into was... But I never told my psychiatrist friend about that idea. The corridor I was in began angling left and slanting downward. I thought it was wrong, but I kept on walking. Then I heard that sort of hollow roar ahead that means open space, and people talking. I went down a short flight of stairs and came out on the 3rd level at Grand Central Station. For just a moment I thought I was back on the 2nd level, but I saw the room was smaller. There were fewer ticket windows and train gates, and the information booth in the centre was wooden old-looking, and the man in the booth wore a green eye shade and long black sleeve protectors. The lights were dim and sort of flickering. Then I saw why. They were open-flame gas lights. There were brass spittoons on the floor, and a man was pulling a gold watch out of his vest pocket. He glanced at his watch and frowned. He wore a derby hat, a black 4-button suit with tiny lapels, and he had a big black handlebar moustache. Then I looked around and saw that everyone in the station was dressed like 1890-something. I never saw so many beards, sideburns, and fancy moustaches in my life. A woman walked in through the train gate. She wore a dress with a leg of mutton sleeves and skirts to the top of her high-button shoes. Out on the tracks, I caught a glimpse of a locomotive, a very small Currier and Ives locomotive with a funnel-shaped stack. And then I knew. To make sure, I walked over to a newsboy and glanced at the stack of papers at his feet. It was The World, and The World hasn't been published for years. The lead story said something about President Cleveland. I've found that front page since, in the public library files, and it was printed June 11, 1894. I turned toward the ticket windows, knowing that here, on the third level at Grand Central, I could buy tickets that would take Louisa and me anywhere in the United States we wanted to go, in the year 1894, and I wanted 2 tickets to Galesburg, Illinois. Have you ever been there? It's a wonderful town still, with big old frame houses, huge lawns, and tremendous trees whose branches meet overhead and roof the streets. And in 1894, summer evenings were twice as long, and people sat out on their lawns, the men smoking cigars and talking quietly, the women waving palm leaf fans, with fireflies all around in a peaceful world. To be back there with the First World War still 20 years off and World War II over 40 years in the future, I wanted 2 tickets for that. The clerk figured the fare. He glanced at my fancy hatband, but he figured the fare, and I had enough for 2 coach tickets one way. But when I counted out the money and looked up, the clerk was staring at me.
"That ain't money, mister, and if you're trying to skin me, you won't get very far."
And he glanced at the cash drawer beside him. Of course, the money was old-style bills, half again as big as the money we use nowadays, and different-looking. I turned away and got out fast. There's nothing nice about jail, even in 1894. And that was that. I left the same way I came, I suppose. Next day, during lunch hour, I drew $300 out of the bank, nearly all we had, and bought old-style currency. That really worried my psychiatrist friend. You can buy old money at almost any coin dealer's, but you have to pay a premium. My $300 bought me less than $200 in old-style bills, but I didn't care. Eggs were 13 cents a dozen in 1894. But I've never again found the corridor that leads to the third level at Grand Central Station, although I've tried often enough. Louisa was pretty worried when I told her all this, and didn't want me to look for the third level anymore, and after a while I stopped. I went back to my stamps. But now we're both looking, every weekend, because now we have proof that the third level is still there. Because my friend Sam Weiner disappeared. Nobody knew where. See, Sam's a city boy, and I used to tell him about Galesburg. I went to school there, and he always said he liked the sound of the place. And that's where he is, all right, in 1894. Because one night, fussing with my stamp collection, I found, well, do you know what a first day cover is? When a new stamp is released, stamp collectors buy it on the first day. They stick it on an envelope and mail it to themselves. The postmark on the envelope shows the exact date, proving it was sent on the first day. This envelope is called a first day cover. They're never opened, you just put blank paper in the envelope. That night, among my first day covers, I found one that shouldn't have been there. But there it was. It was there because someone had mailed it to my grandfather at his home in Galesburg. That's what the address on the envelope said. And it's been there since July 18, 1894. The postmark showed that. Yet I didn't remember it at all. The stamp was a 6-cent, dull brown, with a picture of President Garfield. Naturally, when the envelope came to Grandad in the mail, it went right into his collection and stayed there. Till I took it out and opened it, the paper inside wasn't blank. It read,
Charlie, I got to wishing you were right, and then I got to believing you were right. And Charlie, it's true. I've found the third level. I've been here 2 weeks, and right now, down the street at the Dailies, someone is playing the piano, and they're all out on the front porch singing, Seeing Nellie Home, and I'm invited over for lemonade. Come on back, Charlie and Louisa. Keep looking till you find the third level. It's worth it, believe me.
The note was signed Sam. At the stamp and coin store I go to, I found out that Sam bought $800 worth of old-style currency. That ought to set him up a nice little hay, feed and grain business. He always said that's what he really wished he could do, and he certainly can't go back to his old business. Not in Galesburg, Illinois in 1894. His old business? Why? Sam was my psychiatrist.
You were just daydreaming about the life you wish you had, and you just want to escape.